At the trade shows, it's something as little as, I'm going there to go buy my Sprint 3000. I'm at the M&R booth. No one's really paying attention to me, thinking that just by looking at me that I wouldn't, be interested in buying one of the machines, or just like they would just move to the next person.
Easy Way. If you're spending hours cleaning screens, that is a thing of the past with Easy Way screen printing and screen cleaning chemicals. Their innovative formulas are designed to work quickly and effectively, so you can spend less time cleaning and more time creating. Plus, Easy Way is passionate about empowering printers of all skill levels. They have tons of resources and expert advice to help you succeed in running your shop.
Bruce, do you need a solution to improve efficiency and reduce costs in your art department? If you go to 1-900-HOTStuff.com, you're going to find Graphic Source. Graphic Source offers industry-leading outsource options for your shop by truly becoming a part of your team. They plug and play with Printavo and other shop management software. And when it comes to SEPs, mockups, creative art, order management, digitizing, back office admin, and customer service, there's no better company in our industry to work with. At Campus Inc., we have 5 full-time Graphexers, and they help keep Campus Inc. running. You can hit them up, graphicsource.com. Use Printavo Pod 24 to get 50% off your first vector, SEP, or embroidery order. Thanks so much, Graphic Source.
Dude, you have a great backlight behind you, by the way. I'm going to send you a screenshot. You got to record from the holiday and more. Supercolor is the world's best heat transfer. It's made for screen printers, by screen printers. They understand the pressures and expectations of running a screen printing business. That's why they pride themselves on being super fast and super easy. Rum and the team are awesome. Always fun to see them and just spend time together. Not only that, their support team knows incredible. So super fast email. They're a great partner. If there's an issue, they're shipping stuff overnight back to help you run your business. Supercolor helps you guys make it. Mention or use that code Printavo15. That gets you 15% off your order.
Sweet. Bruce, have you heard of multicraft_daddy? If you go to Instagram right now, open it up and type in multicraft_daddy, give him a follow and a like. Actually, shoot him a DM because he's giving away a free case of PMI tape per episode. If you need ink supplies or a daddy, Multicraft Screen Printing and Digital Supplies for over 50 years has been providing you with top brands at competitive prices. Mention the Printavo podcast. You'll receive an extra 10% off your first order. Dave Eggers and the team at Multicraft, we appreciate everything you do for us. And thanks so much for sponsoring the pod.
All right, let's jump on in. If you're open to saying, like, how has being with a financial planner helped you at Midnight Supply Co? Because like so much of the time we talk about stuff that seems so silly when we talk about it, like on the just putting so much money back in and like not having money at the end of the year or end of the month or whatever, or not planning and thinking about different hires and the costs of different things. Has it changed your perspective in any way?
I think it has, just because, like I mentioned, I grew up being the youngest of 3 sisters and was very spoiled. So also just didn't really have an understanding of saving money and business structures. So even my fulfillment business, which was what I had before the print shop, I was fulfilling orders for a bunch of local artists and was doing that just on the side. And eventually he was like, you should turn this into a business. You should make it into an LLC. And I had been doing that work for already 5 years until I was like, okay, I'll make this an LLC. And then that kind of created the business for me.
I have a question, Christine. When you think about an idea, do you think about the numbers first and just make sure it makes logical sense? Or do you just do it and figure it out later?
It might be a mix of both, but I feel that like I do act on feeling. Like what I guess one specific example was like in the pandemic when it felt like it was a restart and I had to restructure everything. What came to me first as it being most important was paying my people better and bringing on health insurance. And that was a big decision that I made, prior to having the sales to prove that I could do it. It was mostly just like taking that on and just like forcing myself to work to get those sales to compensate for higher wages and health insurance.
If you were to guess between me and Bruce, who's more impulsive or who doesn't rationalize their spend?
I'll say Bruce.
Whoa, thank you.
Who is it? Who is it?
It's definitely not Bruce.
I overanalyzed. Steven underanalyzes. There's a good balance because we'll text about it and then it's
as
like,
I go. So I'm I'll sit down at the poker table. Bruce will watch the poker table,
and then I'll walk away because I'm like,
and then he'll walk away because he's like, why would I play a losing game? And I'm like, this is so much fun. We just it's really interesting. People have like different styles of how they roll in business. And I think that's really, really interesting. Do you feel like maybe the longer you've been in business, you take different, like the way you take a risk has changed?
I think so. I mean, when I first bought the business, my first instinct was to like move us because of the facility that we were previously in. It was just sheet metal walls and floors that were about to fall in. We also started to get more pallet size orders. So as soon as I became owner, like my thinking was, okay, I need to move us to a better place to be able to grow to where I want us to be. I did that in the fall of 2019 and then March of 2020. Like I had made the biggest decision of my career. And then March of 2020, like we're in the new warehouse, the world is shutting down. And I remember like sitting downstairs and just thinking like, what did I just do to like the business and why did I move us? And I was heavily questioning why I did something like that. Whereas now I feel like I wouldn't make that drastic of a decision. But I still am like making big risks, but am taking the finances into more consideration. I had mentors back then that were also like warning me, like, if this doesn't work out, like this could end you guys. So, I think I'm a little more cautious these days.
Bruce, what about you and risk?
I'm very calculated with it. Like with hires or anything, I'll analyze it to the death in an Excel sheet. So I understand the payback period. I understand where every dollar is going for it. I understand the true total cost. But that definitely makes me miss some good opportunities, or almost miss. I mean, I think, hiring Matt Marcotte was a great example that I asked you, Stephen, about, which was like, hey, Matt reached out, but I don't really have a role, but I mean, it makes a lot of sense. He's super sharp. What should we do? And Stephen's just like, dude, are you kidding me? It's a no-brainer. Like,
you know what I said? I go, you're literally going to hire, you like overthought. I'm like, you're going to hire Karate Kid of the industry. Like,
yeah.
I love Marcotte.
I think, don't let him listen to this. It'll get to his head and he'll save the clip and send it to Bruce or something. But I think the best entrepreneurs are the ones that know how to make very fast, rapid calculations, but also know how to have like really good gut instinct. And that's why actually some of the best business people are like great poker players. And like there's so much stuff in poker of, the bluffs and reading people and knowing when to go and knowing when to ride and all those things. Actually, I'm going to use an example here. I'll rip on Bruce for a little bit. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Bruce, can I make fun of you?
Sure.
So Bruce is really into surfing right now. Really into surfing. And Bruce, you're trying to go like every morning and you're studying it and you've got a camera and you're learning about it. And I have tried to learn how to surf and it is one of the hardest things. But the one thing I've learned about from watching the Olympics and seeing these crazy surfers is they are so they know exactly when the wave is going to come and they look for that exact moment, but they don't try to control the ocean. And so a surfer, if you ever notice, will sit on the beach and just watch. Like, Bruce, you sit Indian style and you just like watch the waves. I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? And they're like, oh, we're just trying to see like where the currents are, where the tide is, like how the water's coming in. I'm like, who fucking knows what it is? It's the ocean. Just go surf. And it's really interesting to see surfers in the way that they're like, nope, I'm going to wait for the exact moment to ride the perfect wave. And I'm going to have the right board at the right time, at the right angle. And that's how you get an awesome surf, which I haven't done yet. So, Bruce, you're great in business. And I use that as an example in surfing. Where I think you're good at taking calculated risks. You could probably be a little more impulsive though. So
yeah, that's fair. That's a cool analogy. I like that.
More like Steven at the poker table. And I feel like I do act a lot off of like trusting my gut.
Mm-hmm.
What's a risk like recently that you feel like you've taken?
This Colorways Summit that I wasn't sure how everyone was going to react to, and whether or not I'd be able to get support from the companies that I reached out to. And it really was just hoping that, people would believe in what I was doing. And I was so stressed when this all started, but it's 2 weeks away, and I'm feeling a lot better about taking that risk.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. So on Instagram, you can go to it at Colorways by MSC. And that's the Instagram handle to get some more info.
Yeah, it's a 2-day summit for women of color in our industry. It's not limited to just owners. I really wanted to get, printers, brand owners, like clothing brand owners, and of course shop owners, because we are a women-owned shop as well. It kind of came from a place of not feeling like there was a type of community where women of color could feel a sense of, authenticity around each other. I've been to different tours and summits, and there have been, like panels and groups that specially focus on getting women together. But even within those groups, like, I felt like a minority. I was like one of 3 in a particular group that I experienced last summer. We toured Bella Canvas. There were panel discussions, and there was a lot of discussion about having male advocates in the industry. And I really felt that a lot of the discussions needed to be focused around having like white women advocates in this industry. I was only at that summit because Amy Baker from Threadbare, invited me to be there. Yeah, it's happening. We're doing 2 days in Reno, Nevada, and we have tours at San Mars Distribution Warehouse. We're touring Stitches Clothing Company. And then day 2 is a series of panel discussions featuring people from Printavo, All Made, Bella Canvas, and really looking forward to it. So
that's awesome. So what do you think are some of the topics that you want to touch on to be able to go deeper into at the conference? So
the 3 panels, the first is just about women in the industry, breaking barriers. It's myself, Kendall Sowers from Printavo, and Kesni Muhammad from Big Printing. For me, I just really want to talk about how Colorways came about, how I'm looking for a community and to continue to build on something like this, because in my search of, finding attendees, everyone has expressed that they've been like waiting and looking for something like this, which has helped me to, continue to keep it going. Another topic is just talking about, I really want to hear about the upbringing of some of the panelists and how that has impacted them in their print shops, how they've dealt with adversity, and just hearing from their particular perspectives. And then there will be discussions on sustainability, whether that's from a super small business and how they are managing their day-to-day, to a company like All Made and what they're doing for the industry. So it's a wide range of topics.
And you got Kesni, who's an incredible speaker and business owner too.
Looking forward to meeting her.
Christine, it's quite obvious the printing industry is male dominated, and it's probably predominantly white male dominated. I don't know if I'm considered a minority. My parents are both, I'm Egyptian, I guess, maybe. But I think you're doing like 2 things almost at the same time, which are really hard to do, right? It's like minorities and women all in one conference. And then, have you felt, you're kind of, and what I can hear from this is, I'm doing this because I couldn't find the community in the industry, or it was talked about, but it wasn't done. What has that been like for you? Can you talk a little bit about like being both a woman and, minority, and what that's like for you to go to a trade show, or what are those experiences like for you? Because I think we need to learn from you.
Yeah, I think you're right in saying that, like, it has been talked about and people want to help, but nothing has really been done as far as like I've experienced. At the trade shows, it's something as little as, I'm going there to go buy my Sprint 3000. I'm at the M&R booth, and, no one's really paying attention to me, thinking that just by looking at me that I wouldn't, be interested in buying one of the machines, or just like they would just move to the next person. Or,
an old white guy from Illinois doesn't want to sell you a press. Oh, yeah, they don't want to sell me one either. I'm just kidding. Keep going. What were you going to say?
I'm also always on social media, so I can see someone thinking that, that's my sole role, is like to get Instagram footage at the trade show. I just feel like a bunch of times I'm not taken seriously just because I am a woman. I look super young, and they might not think that I'm there to make, serious decisions, when solely last year I was there to just go look at this dryer that I wanted to buy and to connect with my friends. This came from anger and rage and like not being able to see anybody else make that change. And it truly was, I went over to my friend's house, and I was a little frustrated, and felt, that it wasn't as inclusive as it should have been. And she's like, well, maybe you should be the one to, put something on like this. And then I took that really seriously. And since last summer, have been planning to do something like this. So I'm just really looking forward to how this will, at least have people pay attention to the fact that this has been lacking in the industry, and just having people understand that it's something that's important, that should be happening, and should have happened a long time ago, but we're here now. So
were you able to get the dryer?
Were you able to get the dryer?
Or what'd you get? Yeah.
I did get a Sprint 3000. It ended up being used from a company that I used to work for, called Codis Design.
Oh,
and
I know Codis. Yeah.
You familiar with Codis?
Very Greek.
Really?
Fraternity sororities. Okay. Heck yeah.
Yeah. Heavy in the Greek scene, and breweries, and a lot of my accounts while I was there was CrossFit gyms. I bought my machine from them. It was actually just a photo from Dave McLean. And my production manager was like, oh, it looks like it's at Codis. And I was like, I worked there. So it felt like that was a full circle moment, that I needed to get that specific dryer. It was in the price range that we were looking for. And that just arrived last June.
I think before and I want to get into Midnight Supply and stuff like that, I think it's important to acknowledge that being able to talk about starting a discussion is the hardest. Starting a discussion is easy. Trying something is hard. Doing it right the first time is even harder. And so if there are organizations that are out there, and I know there are ones that they mean well, they're trying their best, if you have no one show up to your booth, but you're trying the best, you just have to keep coming back and trying and trying and trying. And so it's empowering to see Colorways or, some of these other organizations that are starting. But I think what we have to do is don't stop. We all need to be on a relentless pursuit. And if we didn't do it, if there's something we could have changed, let's change it, right? If there's a way to make it 1% better, let's make it 1% better. If there's opportunity where we make a mistake, let's give ourselves grace to hit edit undo, because what we don't want to do is divide ourselves in an industry where we all need to come together. So before we all kind of I love that this is happening. I think that I would just challenge us all to make sure that any organization or anything we do, we try to come together on it, as much as we possibly can, and hear each other and feel heard and understood. So I think this is super cool in what you're making. So let's talk Midnight Supply. Bruce, what do you got?
So you worked, I was reading a lot of background, Christine. You worked at Midnight Supply, but obviously it's your shop now. Yeah. So what happened there?
So I was at Codis Design, which was 2 blocks away from Midnight Supply Company. It was an already existing print shop, and then that tanked. So 2 guys purchased it and turned it into Midnight Supply Company. And I knew one of the guys through my work in the music scene, and he invited me to come over to meet with him. I went over on my lunch break. He presented the opportunity to manage the print shop, and then I went back and put my 2 weeks in, and haven't looked back ever since. It was the first 2 years where I was just, trying to restructure it, trying to set minimums. And there was one fall where I just really crushed it. And the next meeting with the previous owners, they were like, we're selling you the print shop. So 2018, switched ownership over to me. And then 2019 was when I made the move to the new facility.
There's a lot there, right? So you were brought in to take over the print shop. I find that interesting because I think a lot of owners would like to just like, hey, can someone just handle this for me and I can, step back a little bit. What was that experience like? And, what did you feel like you were stepping into if someone else wanted to try to find someone to do something similar?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like it was such a huge risk. Like I got to CODIS because all of my side hustles and part-time work like fell through. I was working at a record label and all of a sudden they were like, we don't have a job anymore, like that day. So I scrambled and I was looking for anything that had to do with merchandise. And that's how I came across Midnight Supply Company or across CODIS Design. Then I think once they bought the print shop, these two guys are entrepreneurs. They have many businesses. One of the guys was printing his brand at this shop. So I think they had known that I was working with merchandise and they had seen me in operations and management roles. So I was brought on to Midnight Supply. And like I said, the first few years was really trying to restructure and, figure out what had gone wrong with the previous company and try and fix all of that.
How did the structure work when they were like, hey,
yeah, like,
are you interested
tell us
in taking
about
this
like
over?
they actually like buying it. Like, how did that work?
Yeah, because obviously I didn't have any money. So they created a sale where, whatever the price was, I was able to pay them monthly through the business, just the operations of the print shop. They put a lot of trust in me. They really gave me the responsibility and I took it and ran with it. And I think it took me about 3 years to pay them. They gave me such a great deal and I'm really grateful for them. They're still two of my biggest mentors right now and have been over the last 10 years of my career. I still have the relationship with them and I continue to learn from both of them.
So seller financed essentially, which is actually that's how I bought into Campus Ink. I put down a little bit of money, but essentially what I think, and so for listeners trying to understand this is once you come up with a valuation of the company, let's just say it's 5 times profit or 3 times profit or, whatever that. So if profit is, $100,000, 3 times that is $300,000. So then you look at it and say, okay, how do I pay off $300,000 to these owners over 5 years? Okay, that's 60 grand a year. Okay, that's 5 grand a month. Can I afford to pay 5 grand a month for the next 5 years? And if I can take over the business right now. And so it sounds like you were able to come up with a number. Can you talk about a little bit about like how you came up to that number? Did they just give it to you? Like
they came up with the number. It was a ridiculously good price. I don't even I need to look back and see what it was. It had to have been less than like 50,000. And they, structured it so that I was able to make small payments across the course of a few years. Really wanted to see me succeed. Obviously they're invested in it. So, I haven't really thought about that in like 10 years.
Can you talk about how big the business was when you bought it?
1 auto, a manual, and maybe like myself and 3 employees. Now we're at 2 autos, embroidery, heat presses, and 10 employees.
Okay, so like when you bought the company, you were doing $300,000-$500,000, somewhere around there.
Probably around like 500 to 800,000, and then
sweet. Now you're probably 4 to 5 times that, 3, 4, 5 times that. You're running.
In my dreams, I think that it's been a lot of work and trying to survive a pandemic really rocked us. But my goal for this year is like 1.2 million. And I hope that we get there with profitability. Like it hasn't been easy at all. I've made some expensive investments, machines, the move in my people. And I just feel that the last couple of years, last year, this year, and the next is really about just like getting us to, profitability to be able to pay again, just like pay people more, invest back into the business.
Thank you for sharing that. I know we have to sometimes pry, but it helps when listeners are like, I can connect with Christine there, and that's where I want to be, or, oh, I'm in the same spot. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
What do you mean
problem.
by, can you tell us more about the profitability remark? Like what are the things that you feel like you do now to try to get there profitably?
I mean, for us, it's like our operations is just cost so much, and just driving sales up has been the main focus, and putting people in place to help me to get more sales and process orders faster. It really was me still on the production floor handling a lot of the office work up until maybe 2022, 2023, when I really started to bring more people on. I've been making, certain investments like the dryer, which has now cut our electricity bill in half. And it really has just been about like fine tuning our expenses and trying to grow it organically. We haven't really invested in like marketing of any sort. A lot of our sales come from word of mouth and Instagram, and just in me making connections and learning from other shops. I feel like if I've been able to get us here at like half of my speed, like what can I get us to when I'm really, really applying myself? I just feel like so much of the pandemic was just like chaos, and then trying to like bring the company back together and bring my printers and finally feel like I've built a team that I trust, and the production is a well-oiled machine. And now it's just about increasing our sales.
Christine, how closely do you monitor your numbers? Like, you're going to marry someone who's probably fiscally and financially responsible, like you talked about.
Yeah.
But like, do you look at things? Are you crazy about numbers? Like, what are you crazy about that you check every single day?
I guess I can be crazier about the numbers. Like that is definitely my focus now and moving forward. Like it was so much not taking all of it into consideration. It was mostly just like survival mode. It feels like making the biggest move in my career, the world shutting down, and then just like army crawling out of that hole. It feels like just the last 2 years I've been able to start breathing and like now really focus on the numbers and get us to a good place.
Because you were heavy on the music merch side, right?
Yes.
Which all stopped then.
Like, Christine, are you checking like, do you check your bank balance every day? Like, are there things that you check that you're like OCD about? Like, I always check, I check what Shopify did, I check bank balances, I check what Stripe dumped in. Those are like my things that I look at every morning. What
you
are
used
the
to
things
check
that
if the press is running?
I just gave up on that. Have shirts left the building? No,
Yeah.
I like to see throughput, but yeah, what do you look at?
Yeah, bank account often the top of the week. Like, I'm checking the bank account, making sure that like our bills are paid weekly, and then preparing for like payroll and rent, which are two biggest expenses, and mostly just like paying bills and collecting balances is just my main focus, and being able to just keep us going with cash flow. Printavo helps a lot with that, like just being able to check like deposits and seeing like what we have the week ahead, 2 weeks ahead. This year I'm really trying to like get ahead of like finances instead of like going through the month and seeing how we did. Like I really need to be able to halfway through a week in, like see where we're headed, and really trying to get our sales up based on where we're at weekly, and just trying to stay on top of that.
No, that's super helpful. I do this thing, when I was a little bit earlier in business, my dad would always ask me, if you shut down your business today, what do you got? And so we made a list, and it's like, okay, here are your bank balances. Put all your bank balances there every single day. How many undeposited checks do you have? So how much cash do you have? Then below that, you have your accounts payable. How much is on your credit cards, your SNS, your Sanmar, Alpha, any sales tax, payroll? Who do you owe money to if you were to shut down today? And then what are your accounts receivable? What's all the money that you're going to bring in if you were to shut down today? What's 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and past 90 days that you're never going to collect? And then where's any of your long-term debt? So if you were to shut down the business today, what banks would be coming after you? Would there be SBA loans? Would there be equipment loans? Whatever. And based on that number, we would measure it every single week, and that would be the thermometer for our business, right? And we would just watch it like a hawk. So I really think it's important that shop owners, especially now, are measuring these things every day and looking for signals in their business when something's going well or when something's not going well. I've just heard it more and more often in the last couple of months.
Is every day good, or is it paranoid, feeling? Because sometimes I feel like it also creates a bit of anxiety because of the fluctuations, but it's like, oh, it'll be fine by Friday because, this deposit hits or whatever.
I think it's like tracking calories. If you tracked your calories every day and you were religious about it, you'd probably eat less donuts, or you would take better measures. And so, if I notice cash down, I'm looking at my AR and saying, is our team collecting money as fast as possible? Why, what's going on here? And that's what I'm focusing on because I need to survive, right? I think in this day and age, if you last, you win, and you need to make sure you have a pulse on your business. So I think that could get a little extreme. It's like, do you step on the scale once a week or every day? I think once a week is good, right? What do you think, Bruce?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. We did something similar around once a week. I felt that made sense. And then, kind of a monthly snapshot at the end to see how things went. Do you, one thing you mentioned, Christine, is driving down expenses. It makes sense, trying to reduce overhead where you can. And then also top line revenue, trying to grow that. It's harder to look. I think it's a little easier maybe to look through the expenses. What can we cut? What can we reduce? What can we downsize? But the top line is a little bit harder. Like, do we need marketing campaigns? Do I need to be reaching out to people? Like, how do you think about that with, all right, I want to be able to grow sales more, maybe 10% total for the year, 20% for the year. What does that mean for Midnight Supply Co. as far as what do you do?
Yeah. Some things as little as, just the type of events that I'm going to, like how I'm networking. I really credit everything that we've been doing to my relationships and being able to just show face at things and then obviously making sure that our clients are happy with the product. But one little thing that we started doing was just, creating these merch packages for clients that either have a current order happening or they had just finished an order with us, but will, throw their logo on a bunch of promotional products, like items that they didn't originally produce with us. And I just feel like that opens up people's minds. 75% of the ones we've sent out, people have ordered products from there. And we just started doing that. And something that we've continued to just do weekly. We'll pick a client, try and figure out products that they would be interested in. And that's been helpful. I think people don't realize we can do things other than t-shirts. So sometimes just presenting the opportunity to them directly. We also have a lot of background working with musicians and touring musicians, and being in the Pacific Northwest, the upper left corner of the country. A lot of tours start here. And so sometimes logistically, it makes sense to produce it in Seattle, where your tour starts, and then go along to the rest of the country. So I've found that a lot of those clients, we're starting to reach out to tours that are coming through, and people are, seeing that it's reasonable to work with us and makes sense logistically for the tours. So that has also been helping us. And then just, we've been doing a lot more pop-ups this year, at local festivals. We started working with liveprinting.com, and just really getting more experience outside of the shop and letting people know that we exist outside of South Park neighborhood of Seattle.
Interesting. It sounds like what you're doing is really trying to increase your like surface area, right? Like just different ways to kind of expose the business in ways that might not be traditional. And I think that's really neat. A really interesting business case is 5-Hour Energy. Do you know why 5-Hour Energy is successful? Have I said this before, Bruce? 5-Hour Energy is successful because they decided to be on the counter of gas stations, not in the fridge, right? So it's the same energy drink, but they're like, no, we're not going to make it cold. And with all the Red Bulls and Monsters, we're going to actually reposition it, increasing the surface area and the opportunities and repositioning their product. And so when you think about these things of, hey, I'm going to partner with liveprinting.com and I'm going to go out in the community and print, it's like exposing yourself to something that might come. It's a sales opportunity. Or these gift boxes where I'm actually going to pick a company every day and find a product they would never think of and show it to them on a platter, right? And I think sometimes we think we have to sell one certain way, but what we really have to do is try to do all these little things and see what pops. So I think that's super cool. Bruce, what do you got?
Have you guys tried 5-Hour Energy?
Yeah.
Maybe a long time ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember it working.
My dad would be like, this is a really funny story. When I sucked at tennis, he'd be like, here, drink this. I was like 16 or something. He's like, wake up a little bit, shaky. Move your feet. Yeah. They're gross, funny, but they work. Have you had one, Bruce?
I remember having it at like a 7-Eleven or a gas station or something. This is like years and years ago. But yeah, I just remember it being gross. But I was like, well, if it wakes me up, sure. And maybe that's why I also do. It's just no one cares about the taste. It's like, yeah, you're just not expecting that. Okay, I wanted to take some time because I read this book called Shine. So the author is the same author from the book Traction, which you guys have probably heard of, Gino Wickman, of which, Traction is unbelievable operating system for the business to run on and get things organized. His second book, Shine, has some very interesting takeaways. I've got like 4 or so of them, and I'm just going to rifle them off, and I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts. Okay, so the first one is decisions in a 10-year time frame. So he talks about shifting your mindset from short-term thinking to thinking in 10-year time frames. He says short-sightedness is limiting you. When you shift to a long-range thinking, time will slow down, a feeling peace comes over, and you will feel more consistent. People overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, but they underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years. All of your goals, plans, activities, and items and to-do lists, really examine, do they align with the 10-year thinking goals? For example, you brush your teeth every day so that you get the long-term outcome of having healthy teeth and gums to live a longer life. When you're deep running the business, everything is day to day. It's hard to even think of next month, to be honest. What do you think about that as far as shifting the daily activities and tasks and things you're doing to thinking about what you want in 10 years? Christine, you're up first.
Christine, you go.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like everything that I've done is for the long term. Like, it really is hard for me to get hung up on the day to day. Like, everything I'm doing is for the growth of the business, and everything that I put out there is for the longevity of Midnight Supply Company. But like, I think just day to day, I'm so caught up in my daily tasks, so much of working in the business, as they say, and not on the business. I've taken a few classes that have really like forced me to spend time on thinking, outside of the box and focusing on just like the day-to-day operations. A lot of that is me being able to delegate tasks as well. Like, that's been one of the hardest things that I've been able to get over, and like hire more people to help me out. I think that has also helped my day-to-day and being able to think long-term.
It's not like it's not like what are you doing about this? It's like
this is making my brain hurt, Bruce. I think there was a pivotal point in my business or in my career where I was thinking about the next day or the next hour or whatever. And when I finally brought leadership in to work with me, we were able to sit down and think about things in 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10 year increments. And it wasn't really until I had other, like-minded leaders that we could sit in a room for a day and have a retreat and whiteboard it all out and put it on the calendar and do it again, because I wasn't accountable to myself. And so I think the first thing that I did before I could afford, hiring executive leadership was to be part of communities and exec networks and have mentors and advisors that I would meet with regularly. Because when I vocalized something to them, they would ask me how it was and I would be held accountable to them. Because I think the hardest thing as a business owner is if you're accountable to no one, you're going to speak in big figures. And, shops say like, oh, I think I can be a $50 million company. And it's like, who are you accountable to? So I think there was a little bit of an inflection point probably 3-4 years ago. And now I have my eyes on making sure our business lasts. And you'll hear me say that a lot. If we last, we win. And so, if Campus Inc. is around 10 years from now, like we've won, I think. And that's what my goal is to make sure that our company still exists 10 years from now. So I don't know. Bruce, how do you think about this?
I don't think I was able to think about this until I probably just took time off away from my phone, and away from Slack and email and the day, there's just the constant day to day. Like there's just so much momentum. It's like you're on a train and the train is just like hurling like a 60, 80 miles an hour. And it's like, you kind of look to get off and you're like, I'll get off later. I'll get off at the next stop. And I think it's hard to actually pop up and have that vision. And then the second thing is it's very hard to have self-reflection about some of the work that you're doing if it actually matters for the 10 years. Like I think we tell ourselves a lot that I'll just do it, or I'll take care of this, or so on. And I kind of wonder, like, did I need to just do it? Like, couldn't I have given that to the person, let them struggle with it, probably goof up on it for a week or two and then figure it out? Probably. And that would have been a lot better than me doing it. And that brings me honestly to the second point. He said, create no boundaries. What are you not doing? Like we have a lot of our jobs is like, this is what I am doing. This is what I'm responsible for. But can you write down all your no's? For example, his first one, which I thought is pretty powerful.
Wait, Bruce. Create no boundaries. Is no the subject or the verb? What?
Create no boundaries as in these are things I'm not doing.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the subject or the verb or the whatever.
I was confused. I was like, no boundaries? Like, what the heck? No. Things you say no to.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. So the first one that I think was crazy powerful is like no $25 an hour work. He says there's nothing wrong with people that are doing $25 an hour work, but as the owner, and especially as a business that's really growing, never do anything that you could pay someone $25 an hour to do. Now, I think never is a very strong word for that, but that is an interesting blocker to help black and white different tasks, email, calendar, order entry, following up, maintenance, all that type of stuff. He's like, that should be delegated because that's the type of work that holds you back from gaining the freedom in your life that sparks more creativity and have a more satisfying impact on the work that you're doing and get focus on essentially this high energy, high impact work. So that's a no. Other examples of no's are like no back-to-back meetings that are more than 4 meetings a day. No taking a meeting with someone just because they emailed and, hey, can we jump on a call? I think we've all got that one. He's even said no running meetings, which is an interesting one. No housework. He put in parentheses, just hire someone. No email on Saturdays, no meetings before 8 a.m., things like that. Right. And so, Christine, back to you. What do you like? What do you think about?
You're making me feel like I need to start. I have a long
but it could be. I think it's just like what is that? What I'm saying that what jumps in your head now? Like
no housework.
Like, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the one that you said that jumped out at me was like no meetings when people are just like straight up reaching out. Like I only until recently, like I was taking on all meetings, meeting with anybody and everybody that wanted to come to the print shop until just recently. Like I have had to value my time more and have had to vet people before they come into the shop and like sit down with me for a complete hour to end up just not really having anything to move forward with. It was just like, I just needed the information type of meeting. And I was just like, why did I even hold that? So I, you making this long list makes me feel like I need to make my list a lot longer. And like, I feel like I'm just starting my no list.
Yeah. Bruce, I'll give you a couple that I've started to create for. So I get so much inbound that wants to meet with me. It's like, you name it. Anatol called me. I'm like, come on, you know? But I basically put up a defense in order to meet with me. So like, I'm the last resort. If I absolutely have to meet with them, I will. And usually that's really big, high level stuff in the business. But like our EA will always ask, like, Steven, is this a meeting you need to be in? And so I've kind of created a little protective barrier around myself. The other thing that I do is I try to split up my mornings. So like, I'm trying to do this thing where no meetings before 11 a.m. I want that to be my time so I can do whatever I want. So I can record this podcast, so I can whatever. No meetings before 11 a.m. And then the other thing is internal meetings on Monday, Tuesday, and I'll do external meetings on Thursdays. So like being selfish about, hey, I need to be working on company stuff, and I'll take outside meetings on Thursdays. Because what happens, like you said, Christine, is people they just waste your time, and a 30-minute meeting could have been 10 minutes. The other thing that we're doing is
or just email her.
Yeah, no hour-long meetings. We can do 30-minute meetings. A 30-minute meeting is powerful. It's impactful. It has an agenda. It's quick. Don't need to have an hour-long meeting. You know, you don't need to talk about the weather for 8 minutes on your call. So, like,
figure out Zoom. Zoom's working.
You know what would be funny is if Zoom had the weather in all locations to make meetings more efficient.
No weather talk when we start this call.
Yeah, that's my only rule. We don't talk about the weather. Let's talk about something good and let's get going, you know? So I try to, and then I try not to work like after 7 or 8 p.m. Like no nighttime work. And then I really try to check out on the weekends, almost inaccessible on the weekends. And that's in the last like couple of years. Bruce, what about you?
I think the interesting point is he writes at the end, like, things are okay. Like when you do it, you find out things are fine. Like they're there the next day, or they're handled, or things move on. Like the no boundaries become more powerful and a little bit addictive, just as just doing it or just jumping in was also addictive before. So I when I was actively running the business, I had zero boundaries. I mean, again, it was like that because I wanted to take all the opportunities in, similar to what you talk about, Christine. Like I wanted to. Now, I think towards the end, though, yeah, I mean, being smarter about the inbound outreach definitely was a no. More selective on the events. It's like we tried to do all the events and then tried to be very finicky and more direct. Was a no. I thought I needed to be there all the time. That turned out to be a no. I did not need to. The team was fine. They performed and did a good job. And that I think was a little bit of my ego, which brings me to my last bullet point here that I'm going to share with you guys and get your thoughts. So, Christine, you got to get ready. All right. So the last part he talked about was consider the possibilities that decisions are made out of love or fear. Okay. And so by fear, I mean, inside your mind, your ego, and more so on the love side, it's like who your true self is and what you actually care about. Now, when you think about those decisions are made by either love or fear, that helps you be able to make a little bit clearer decisions. Let me explain. So, for example, you should not attach yourself to someone or something. No one should be attached to you. This is an indicator of fear. For example, if you have a large customer that's detrimental or abusive to a customer or to your team or to your company, but you fear losing them because it may set back your growth plans, you're making a decision out of fear. Here's a great example on the fear ego side. If you're wanting to be a savior and fix everything and just do it, that's like feeding our ego. We want to be there. We want to be present at the event or in that meeting or have the last say about the decision and making sure that it's what we wanted to do. That's feeding the ego of what we should do. Another good one for fear is if you're doing things out of FOMO, you're missing out big next potential opportunity instead of just saying no. Are you afraid you're going to disappoint someone if you said no? Are you going to feel guilty if you said no? Things like that. You're making a decision out of fear instead. Okay. That was the last point. I'm just curious what comes to mind when making those decisions. Because I know we've also had the customer aspect. Like everyone's had that, which was so funny when I read that part. I was like, wow, we've all had the customer where like, shit, but we should do what we can. We should keep bending over backwards. Like we should try to make it work, even though that's making a decision out of fear.
Yeah, I feel like I've definitely had a client or the clients where I couldn't really handle the relationship and none of the team wanted to be dealing with them. And there was always that fear of like losing the sale. They helped us to get other accounts but it came to so much of like stress and like not wanting to deal with it that I was finally able to get over that fear and fire the client. I also think that people who react from fear almost just drag things along instead of just like dealing with it head on. Communication in that sense is important. Like I feel like I'm dealing with something like that right now where it's just like if we had just dealt with this head on without any fear of like repercussions or anything, like we would have dealt with this problem like a month ago. So I just think that fear causes so much stress and unnecessary stress. The hardest part I think is just like getting reasonable and getting over that.
Bruce, how do you work? Did you work? How do you work now?
I tried to make a lot more of my time spent out of the love side and less of the fear ego side because I've really written down more of that 10-year goal stuff as far as how I want to spend my time and how I want to, what I want to, like what gives me a lot of energy when I spend it. And it makes it easier to say no once I wrote it down. Like I think until I physically put it into a document, and I spent a lot of time on this of, okay, this is how I want my days to look like. And this is what I want the, business to look like in 10 years. This is what I want our life personally to look like in 10 years. When opportunities or things come up, it's so much easier to say no because it doesn't align with what I feel like I want to look like in the future. So, of course, there's like, all right, I'll give this a try, or I'll try that. But then the other day, I signed up for this opportunity. I won't say what it was, but it was signed up for an opportunity, helped them out for a little bit. It just was not like a good use of time, and also I wasn't like leaving it thinking this is actually what I thought it would be, aligned with what we're doing longer term. And I was like, hey, this isn't going to work out, and tried to have that tough conversation earlier than letting it drag on. But I feel that that's easier because I do honestly have more time now to think about that versus, being back to back. And again, he goes back to like, you should be taking off more time than you think to be able to think through these things. He mentions business owners just literally, as a fear point, well, this will look bad to the team if I'm gone all week, or if I'm gone on Fridays, or if I'm not in the office, or, they're making that decision and hurting that vision point. Steve, do you?
I think I struggle with a lot of fear and FOMO. I want to do that to be included, or I want to do that to not disappoint someone, or I want to do that to prove a point. I think this is something where it probably goes back to how we were raised, right? And what we were to our parents and siblings, and who we were proving what to do, right? Like the little kid that always wants to show off, and so I think that resonates in people's businesses and their lives and stuff. I think where I'm at now is being able to say no means that I might disappoint someone. Like if Bruce really wants me to go somewhere and I'm like, if I go, it'll make him happy. If I don't go, it'll make him sad. I have to be okay disappointing him. But if we're good friends, he's going to be disappointed and he's like, all right, cool. And I think fear is built out of like overthinking what the impact is really going to be. Saying no to someone might make them disappointed, but they're going to get over it and it's going to be okay. And so I think when you can start to be really selfish with your time, with opportunities, and serve yourself, then you can turn around and have a battery to actually do what you absolutely want to do. And I think that's the whole like self-sacrificing thing just builds resentment for everyone. So I think there's definitely business owners out there that probably struggle with this because they're running their business out of rebelliousness or retaliation or, and they're trying to be the best for everyone and they're taking so much pride in it. But you have to also serve yourself. So I think this last point hits home.
We got super psychological on this one, but I think the last quote that I think relates to all of this is you have two choices. And I love this quote and I think about it so much, just day to day work wise, but also personally is your two choices. Your two choices are one, you can make the hard decisions and have an easy life, or you can make easy decisions and have a harder life. So you pick whichever. Do you want to have the hard decisions up front and the talks and the choices that you have to make for an easier life later, or the opposite? That was this weightlifter guy actually, Jersey Gregoric.
Jersey Shore.
I mean, it could have been. Might as well.
Pauly D.
All right, Christine, thanks so much for being so open and sharing with us. Again, we'll drop a link down actually for Colorways in the description so people can join. If you're listening, that's Instagram.com/Colorways by MSC. So you could be able to sign up. Take a look at the conference. The website is up.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
This is awesome, Christine. Right. Good luck to you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye, print hustlers. We'll see you the next week. Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully that was informative. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to hit the bell for notifications if you enjoyed this video. If you enjoy all the stuff we're putting out, it's really helpful. We love to just be able to see it. That means that we're doing a good job. To subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and hit the like button. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.